Russia attempts to hold the so-called referendums on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. It has been declaring this for several months already. However, for some reason, the dates of holding the referendums are constantly changing.
Russian occupiers are fully aware that the local residents do not perceive them, that they hate them, and are also trying to harm them in every way. In addition, of course, there will be purely economic costs for annexation these territories, for their integration into Russia. This will no longer be one-time handouts in cash, but they will have to solve the problems with the unstable mobile communications, which they'd destroyed by themselves, in addition electricity and gas supply.
The main directorate of intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has stated that Russia had been planning to hold the pseudo-referendums primarily on the occupied territories of the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions on September the 11th, the day of Russian regional elections. However, the head of the Kherson Regional Council, Alexander Samoylenko, believes that this is impossible in the near future.
A commission has not even been formed yet, although the number has been appointed, which is 7 people, but even today they cannot gather these 7 people. I'm 100% sure that no referendums will take place on the scheduled dates. And then again, I am sure that the armed forces of Ukraine will make their own adjustments to the plans of the Russian occupiers. Alexander Samoylenko, head of the Kherson Regional Council, in an interview with Radio Liberty.
A pseudo-referendum in the Luhansk region was also planned for September the 11th, but the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, Serhiy Haidai, says that it will not take place too. The main reason for this is the partisan movement and the armed forces of Ukraine.
Banks are forcing the Russians to change their plans. There will be no referendum on the temporarily occupied territories in the near future. The excellent work of our defenders and partisans postpones the plans of the Russian invaders once again. Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, on Telegram.
The head of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration, Alexander Starukh, says that 65% of the population of the region is on the territory controlled by Ukraine. Thus, the Russian invaders can organize a pseudo-referendum involving no more than 35% of the population. And they have been making plans in this area since April.
There is no law on referendum in Russia. Not a single referendum has ever been held. Any referendum there consists, in fact, that one person comes to the mirror, asks himself something, and does it by himself. We call this an informational special operation to legitimize their presence on the temporarily occupied territories. Almost 2/3 of the region's population is located on the territory, which is controlled by Ukraine. Even from this point of view, talking about a referendum is inappropriate.
President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky said in early August that Russia would close any chances for negotiation with the Ukrainian authorities if it started holding the so-called referendums on the temporarily occupied territories.
The position of our state remains the same. We will not give up anything of ours. And if the occupiers follow the path of these pseudo-referendums, they will close for themselves any possibility for negotiations with Ukraine and the free world, which the Russian side will definitely need in a certain moment.
The US Department of State is also monitoring Russia's preparations for the pseudo-referendums. They said that the results of such a procedure will be falsified. The United States also knows that the Ukrainian people do not want to hold these referendums. They don't want to become a part of Russia. We also know that Russia will use disinformation to justify the holding of these referendums. The United States will do anything possible to disclose the information, to speak very openly about the situation, about the disinformation that we can see from Russia. And the United States will continue to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Andrea Kalan, spokesperson of United States Department of State, in an interview with Voice of America Russian service. The holding of the so-called referendums by the Russian authorities on the occupied territories of the Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhzhia and Kharkiv regions will be again postponed, presumably until the end of autumn. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Yulia Bil, UATV News.